Please put up the translations to Divinity and Divine Service. And the CC. Do you feel better or worse after chanting those mantras? Much better. Mo better. Ugrashava altogether, Sutta Goswami, the son of Roma Harshan, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply. Srila Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage Shukadev Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher castes, his father Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'Oh, my son!' Indeed, only the trees, which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation, echoed in response to the bereaved father. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Shuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge, after having personally assimilated it by experience. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. O best among the twice-born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done, By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better. For by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world. Those who are serious about liberation are certainly non-envious, and they respect all. Yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all-blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions. Those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. After creating the material substance, the Lord, Vasudeva, expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. The Lord, as Supersoul, pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. The supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Thus, the Lord of the universe maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Which one of those verses that we just read is relevant to a person who's entering college after living a life connected with Krishna consciousness in a community that's always hearing and chanting, and then going into college, taking all kinds of classes and stuff like that? Which verse is relevant?
One of them could be Nashtaprayush Vabhadreshu, because by regular attendance, the way that we've been brought up, at least in this community, is to come to as many classes as possible. So by regular attendance on classes of Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as rendering service to the pure devotee, like all the devotees here at ISV, a loving service is established. So in the atmosphere we've been raised, we've learned how to cultivate devotional service.
That's a good one. Could we see the verse then, please? Verse and purport. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Can we have it? Just now only. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 1 to 18. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nashta means destroyed. So what is being destroyed and how is it being destroyed? Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Niditam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. What's being destroyed? Back to the verse, please. What's being destroyed and how is it being destroyed? Bharat? Give him a mic. He's just behind you at 1 o'clock.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So it says that all that is inauspicious is being destroyed, and it's being destroyed by like rendering loving service unto devotees and the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Very good. How does it happen? What's actually happening? Let's hear a little deeper into the Shastra, please. Say, Bharat just brought out the point following this Avantika's choosing this verse. She said in the context of somebody who's been in a community in which devotees are constantly hearing chanting, going about their work in the world, but they're associating, serving pure devotees. And then she recommended that verse, or thought it was relevant for somebody who's transferring from one world to the next. Bharat gave us this very powerful guidance that nashta, it's destroying those things which are inauspicious within the heart. So what is it that's inauspicious, and how is it that they're being destroyed? Give the Shastra and the trail. Give us the strict trail, please. Yes, Prabhu. Sundarananda. He needs a trade-in.
is inauspicious is the conditioning of in the mode of passion and ignorance, which results in lust, greed, and anger. And the way to, so the chapter also talks about how we can get rid of all these anarthas. That is by, it starts with the verse Srinvata Saukata Krishna, by hearing about Krishna and chanting the holy names of Krishna. Then Krishna is a kind and he removes all these anarthas from our heart.
And what verse did you quote?
Mata Swakata Krishna.
Okay,
Punya
go to the
Shravana
next
Kirtana.
verse, which
Radha.
explains, as you're saying, Krishna helps us from within the heart. Can anybody give a little bit more detail about what's actually happening? Anybody can say, oh, God's in your heart. Give us a little more detail. What's happening? What's inauspicious? How does he clear it away? 1, 2. Somebody's calling in. They're so eager to answer this question.
So the verse number 21st says, Bhiddate hridaya grantish chittante sarva samsaya shriyante chasya karmani dishta ebat manishvare. So when we observe ourselves in devotional service, serving Bhagavatam, then these are the things that happens. Vidyate hridaya granthis, the karmic bondage that's like a knot in our heart, that gets vidyate, it gets chiddate hridaya granthis, sorry, vidyate sarva samsaya. So all the samshaya, all the doubts get destroyed. Shriyante chasya karmani, the karmic cycle that we have created, Shriyante means Shriya means that gets erosion, means it gets destroyed, that also, that karmic cycle.
Okay.
Dishta ebat manishare, when we realize the master in our heart.
Prabhu, you were going to say?
The 15th chapter, Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva, use the weapon of knowledge and detachment to cut off.
Quote the whole verse.
Narupamasyeha.
Narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto nachadirna cha sampratishta ashvatamenam suvaruda mulam asanga shastrena dridena chitva tatakpadam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nirvatanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatak pravritti prashita purani. Can you give us a little more out of that?
So by detachment, Asanga Shastrena, by using detachment as a weapon, to use it as a weapon to cut off the attachment to the material world.
So detachment, does that mean you shouldn't go to college? What about the SATs? Should you study or not? Which is detachment? Studying for the SAT or not? Or going to college or not? What would the sages at Naimisaranya say about that? Please, Vaisesika. No? Yeah, go ahead, Malini. SATs or no SATs?
No
College
SATs.
or no? Huh? No SAT. You get a T-shirt, SAT, with a line through it? Okay, go ahead.
Prabhu, I was thinking,
Sangha Shastrena Dridena Chitva, please.
Prabhu, I was thinking about Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantasto Hibhaddhani Vidhanoti Surutsatam. So one who has developed the urge to hear the messages of the Supreme Lord, Krishna within the heart, cleanses the desire of that person. Like Vidhanoti, he cleanses the desire for all the material sense gratification and makes that devotee ready to take the messages.
Okay. I'm very interested in this point about detachment, though, because it might be misunderstood. We have young people going to college now, and so what does it mean to be detached? Is it just two completely separate worlds, and you just pretend one is separate from the other? I live in a detached way here, and then the other place I do it, but there's a cognitive dissonance going on? Or is there a way that it's all harmonized to going off to the university from a community like this? And Srivata has his hand up.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was just thinking that it is not about not doing anything in the material world, but doing everything for Krishna. So it doesn't matter if it's an SAT or work at office or anything that you don't like to do also has to be done just because you're doing it as a service to Krishna. And I was remembering karma niyevadikaraste napaleshu kadachana. Just do your
Could you
karma.
do that a little slower, please, and tell us where it's from?
Prabhu Krishna says about karma niyevadikaraste napaleshu kadachana. So you do the karma and don't be attached to the results. So which is not very easy, but with practice, we should
Could you
try
say
to.
what else is in that verse you just quoted? It said, do your karma, but don't be attached. What else?
Yeah,
did he
ma
say?
karma phale turbu mate sangotso karmani. He says that whatever you do, just give it to me.
No, he says, don't be attached to not doing your duty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So you do your karma, but don't be attached to the result. And also don't be attached to not doing your karma. What does that mean?
So you should just keep doing whatever you do it for Krishna. Don't think that I'm not supposed to do this because it's not connected to Krishna. As Prabhupada says, he uses even a dictaphone for Krishna, the mic for Krishna. Everything in the material world can be used for Krishna's service. And so as far as SATs or college or even work, some of the paperwork that I don't like to do at all, but I still have to do it because it's part of doing it for Krishna. It's not what I like or what I don't like. It's just, anything that I do it for Krishna.
Okay, let's hear what your son has to say. Did you take your SATs?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, what were you thinking? Was there a way in which it's connected to your service to Krishna, or is it divided, or what's the story?
I wasn't thinking in a very Krishna conscious way, but there is a way to think in a very Krishna conscious way. I was remembering what Rupa Goswami says of how a detachment that isn't, there's the understanding that something can be used in the service of Krishna, and without that, the detachment is more, it's more fake. It's not actual proper detachment.
What is the verse? Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita nirbandha krishna sambande yuktam vairagyam uchyate prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mamukshavi parityago vairagyam palagukachate. Could you say what that means more explicitly?
That if something is not seen, if the sambandha with Krishna is not seen in the object, that then the detachment is simply it's yukta vairagya. It's not actual. It's not proper detachment, because everything can be used in the service of Krishna, and otherwise it's the understanding that I'm not to enjoy this thing, and this thing is to be enjoyed by Krishna.
So how do you offer the SAT? Bharat's smiling. He can say. Did you take yours yet?
What I was thinking of is that like the SAT and like other stuff like that, it helps us with our service to Krishna because it can propel us for our like future, and then in the future we can like serve Krishna. So even though like in the moment it might not be like specifically serving Krishna, it can help in the future.
Like how? Be specific.
Like it can give you like stability, I guess.
In what way? Stability. Like you feel healthier? What is stability anyway? And how do you relate it to a verse here? Gita Priya, okay, give her a chance. There is something in this chapter about stability, isn't there? We want to extract it. That you can be, let's hear first what stability is. Go ahead.
I don't think I'll be able to relate it back to a verse, but by stability, I think Bharat meant that we could, if we do like our SATs and get a good score, we can get into a good college and then get a stable job, which and then we can use that to give donations to the temple and like feed ourselves.
Yay! Do you know she's thinking like this? No, you didn't know. Okay, go ahead.
And we can start a family and just raise that family up in Krishna consciousness and then continue the movement.
Okay, very good. She said that she couldn't connect it to a verse. The idea was sound, but who can connect it to a verse in this chapter that says stability can live a stable life? Yes, Srivatsa. There's more mics back there.
I was thinking about labho jiveta yavata.
Give the whole verse.
Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yashcheha karma bhi.
Break it down.
So kamasya nendriya pritir, one's love and efforts should not be directed towards sense gratification and material desires. Labho jiveta yavata, but one should try to live a long life, stay healthy, and stay stable.
Hey. Keep going. But
Jivasya tattva jigyasa means that the living entity should inquire into the absolute truth. Nartho yashcheha karma bhi, and one's activities should all be surrounding this one main goal.
right, so if one is attaining so-called stability, we're just defining it as Gita Priya did, getting a good job. Bharat said something similar, and then say you get stability, then what? Is that enough? How much is stability? Prabhu, I forgot your name. Adrian. Okay, Adrian, go ahead. Take the mic. Got to speak in the mic, otherwise it doesn't get registered in the
Okay, so
Akashvani.
I'm thinking that everything we do, somebody said this before, everything we do for Lord Krishna. And so how that relates back to college or work, it's all the same. If we want to offer the most ultimate experience possible to Lord Krishna, then we really have to up our game. So if we're into sports or if we're into science, whatever it is, if we're into sports and we're lazy and we just trot around the field and we're not really putting our effort into it, that's the experience you're offering Lord Krishna. If you're a scientist and you're in the lab and you're working all day and you're just, you're attached to all this paperwork, these lab reports, you're not really offering that experience to Krishna. So that's kind of my take.
First Canto, 5th chapter, please. Very nice. Who can give a Bhagavad Gita verse that supports that? What Adrian Prabhu just said. Who said that? I can't tell because of the mask. Yes, go ahead, please say it and tell the verse number.
Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhosi dadashi yat tapasyasi kaunteya.
Everybody likes that verse. Okay, break it down, Prabhu.
Whatever you do, all your actions, offer everything unto me.
Give the details.
I can't exactly.
Yat karoshi.
Whatever you do.
Go ahead, yes. Yadashnasi.
Whatever you eat, whatever you worship, like
Juhoshi. Swaha.
And whatever you meditate on.
Yatapasasi. Whatever kind of?
Austerity.
So is it SAT and austerity? You can offer that to Krishna, huh? Okay. Well, how do you offer? Let's be more specific. You get stable in your life. That's what you're doing the SAT for, and getting A+ on everything. And then you get stability, and then what? Let's say you get stability. That's a kind of idea that you get stable. Okay, go ahead.
Manisha just said it, but remembering Krishna and making sure your devotional service is also strong while you're stable.
And how do you do that?
Rendering devotional service and also maintaining your sadhana.
Okay.
serving
Kind of
devotees.
comes back to what Vantika said in the beginning, right? Nashchaprayasha bhajresu. So that means by regularly hearing the Bhagavatam. By the way, what does it mean to regularly practice? Actually, it says nityam bhagavata sevaya. That means always, doesn't it? So how do you apply that? If you're getting stable and you're putting your attention here, there, and everywhere into like what kind of things? Statistics. What else? Huh? Medicine? Education? Well, give us some specifics. What kind of stuff do they make you read these days? Chemistry? What part of chemistry? All the adults are answering. Well, how come you aren't saying anything? You got to do labs, right? Like, what do? See hydration? See how hydration works? Mixing chemicals? Bomb making? No? Okay. All right, various different kinds of things. And how are you thinking of Krishna while you're doing that? How might one think of Krishna while you're mixing chemicals in a laboratory in your college?
Offer the results.
What results are you going to offer? How are you going to do that?
So if you're successful in your experiment, recognize that actually intelligence was given to you by Krishna.
Does anybody here offer their report card to Radha Madan Mohan? You do that?
Not Radha Madhaman, but at home. One time I got a report card and my mom opened it first and I got really mad. Usually I like to offer my report card to Krishna and just so he
You
knows.
offer to a picture of Krishna?
Yes. Arham.
Say, please accept the results?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I want to follow up with what Adrian said. He had such a nice point. And this is a verse from Narada Muni that Prabhupada used to quote quite a bit, which goes to this point. Adrian brought up athletes playing on the fields. What other kind of occupations are there? Soldier. Can that be engaged? You better say yes. We read Bhagavad Gita every day. Okay, what else? A farmer. Can that be offered? Where in the Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say anything about farming being offered? Huh? Come on, somebody take the mic and stand up for your point of view.
Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam.
Okay. Can you tell us more what that means and how you offer it to Krishna, what it all means?
It's the occupational duty of Vaishyas who are in the mode of passion.
What's a Vaishya?
Businessmen, agriculturists, farmers.
Okay. And so let's say you have you're a Vaishya and you're farming. Is that what you do? So what is a Vaishya? How does a Vaishya offer it to Krishna? Okay, one second. Let him expound and then we'll give it back to you, Adrian.
Yeah, Vaishya uses his energy to cultivate the field and protect the cows and offer produce to the rest of the society.
Offer produce where?
To the rest of the society for...
Rest of society? Okay. And how is it an offering to Krishna?
Because somebody has to do that, otherwise we won't have food to eat. So they do that part.
Is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Grab the Gita quick and look up that verse. Krishi go rakshavani jam, vaishyakarma subhava jam. Isn't there a verse in that section that Krishna says how it's all offered to him? By worshiping the Supreme Lord who's all pervading, that if one does one's duty.
Yata pravritti bhutanam, that was.
Yeah, please tell us more about that.
He says one can offer one's own
one can worship the Supreme Lord by performing one's own duty.
One's own duty. You're a successful person. How do you offer the results of your work? And what are you thinking while you're working so hard? Because you're, seems to me, developing more than even stability. What's your motive?
It's to support the Sankirtan movement. So whatever.
Good example. It's like working hard, but your main purpose is to become a billionaire so you can give all the money to Andrew Maharaj to do festivals even on the moon, right? Am I right?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Festival, you'd see one big Hare Krishna festival in every city of the world if it's supported properly, right? That's a way of offering everything. All glories to all the devotees who are joined online.
Jai.
Say Haribol.
Haribol.
Look at this, Gita Priya looking up verses. She knows where stuff is. Here it is. Sway sway karmanya birata sangsiddhim labate nara swakarma nirata siddhim yata vindati tachrinu. Before I read that, let's hear from Adrian. He has practical experience in farming.
So I'm a small-time farmer, just flowers, nothing
Flowers.
special. Flowers. And
What do you mean just flowers? That's the most important thing there is.
it's actually one of the 5 sacred plants. So it's small-time operation. And one thing is that you don't just offer the outcome. I don't just offer the harvest. Actually, I offer the entire experience from seed to harvest. And so when I'm doing my work daily, I'm singing to the plants, and I'm telling them how much I love them and how much how beautiful they are, how they're an expression of God, and I caress them and I take very good care of them. And as a result, I've noticed the plants respond. They grow more quickly. They produce more beautiful flowers. And then in the end, when I harvest them, I do give them away. I give them out to people in the street. And it uplifts people. And so Krishna is in everyone's heart, right? Ishwara, Jiva Atma, however you call it, is inside everyone. So when you see somebody that's, down on their luck, they have, a long face, a simple gesture like that can really change things for them. It can really turn their mood.
Nice.
So that's just my experience.
Well, that's nice. You put your whole heart into your work, all the different aspects, singing to the plants. So this is the way that one can do that. And then distributing not just offering the results, right, but the entire process. And then Adrian talked about the ways in which to remember how Krishna is within everyone's heart, along with the Jiva soul. There's 2. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridya sharjanishti brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudrani mayaya. The Ishvara is there within the heart. He's the overseer and permitter for the jiva, the individual conscious being. Krishna is an individual conscious being. Nityam nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yovidadhati kaman. The Shastra says there's one supreme eternal and who's maintaining all the plurality of eternals. They're parts and parcels of Krishna. In Gita also, Mamaivam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manakshastan indriyani prakriti stani karshati. Krishna confirms that all living beings, the individual conscious beings, are my angsas. They're parts of me. Just like the photons that come from the sun, they're part of the sun, but they're individual units at the same time. And this point about going out to distribute is very important also. This is mentioned as a process of loving exchange by Rupa Goswami. Dadati pratigurnati guhyam akyati prishyati bhunkte bojayate chaiva shadvidam pratilakshanam. There's a way of exchanging love. You can't just love the air. There's no exchange there, but you can show love to other people. Iron rod becomes fire. It transforms. Even we can see in physical experiments that particular elements are transformable. They transform one thing to another. So Krishna says that this is the science of Krishna consciousness. How would an athlete at the Olympics offer his or her occupation to Krishna? Anyone going to the Olympics? Prabhu, what's your event? Why don't we have any representatives there?
I was just reminded of this verse, Prabhuji. Krishna says he is the ability in man. So when somebody is partaking in the Olympics, they have got some special qualifications, and it is Krishna's potency. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattva.
Did you ever see an athlete offer something, his or her ability to God? Yeah, let's see. Demonstrate physically how it looks like. Okay, Nirkula is going to show us. Go ahead, Nirkula. You just scored a touchdown. Like this, right? They go like this. Is that in the spirit? And when you get a what's good? 185 on the SAT, is that good? That's not good? What's good? 1600. Oh. Maybe I'm remembering my scores from the What a slip that was. No, I didn't have the pleasure of taking it, actually. Okay, 2600. 1600. Okay, 1600 SAT, and then what do you do when you see the score? You go like this? Offer to Krishna. Yeah, you should offer everything. He said, I'm the ability in man, and that whatever you do, you should offer it up to me, right? So can we remain Krishna conscious when we go into college? It's not two separate worlds. There's this world chanting mantras, Hare Krishna, and then there's this whole other world, like different ideas going on, and it's two separate worlds, right? No. There's a way to connect it all. Okay. I'm going to read you a verse from the prayers Narada Muni gives. And in this verse, it's 1:522. Shall we look at it? I'll say, please repeat. Idam hi pumsas tapasa shutasya va shwishtasya suktasya cha buddhi dattayo avichutorta kavibhirna rupato Yadutama shloka gunarnavarnanam. And the translation: learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. Gita Pri, could you read the purport for us, please?
Human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc.
Read the list again, really slow.
Okay. Art, science.
No, human. Do the whole sentence.
Human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc.
Who here is going to major in science? Maybe. How about philosophy? How about physics? Chemistry? Psychology? 1, 2? Srivata? Okay. Gita Priya and Srivata are going to be our psychologists. We should have a little booth out there. 5 cents. The doctor is in. Okay, how about economics? Yeah? You're going in economics? Wow. Okay. How about politics? Where's Boomy? She's going into politics, right? No? Okay. How about etc.? Anyone? What are you studying? Computer science. Okay. So because of the etc., it's on the list. Good, right? Okay. Go ahead. Do the sentence. Take it from the top.
Human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc. By culture of such knowledge, the human society can attain perfection for life. This perfection of life culminates in the realization of the Supreme Being, Vishnu. The Shruti therefore directs that those who are actually advanced in learning should aspire for the service of Lord Vishnu. Unfortunately, persons who are enamored by the external beauty of Vishnu Maya do not understand that culmination of perfection or self-realization depends on Vishnu. Vishnu Maya means sense enjoyment, which is transient and miserable. Those who are entrapped by Vishnu Maya utilize advancement of knowledge for sense enjoyment. Sri Narada Muni has explained that all paraphernalia of the cosmic universe is but an emanation from the Lord out of his different energies, because the Lord has set in motion by his inconceivable mercy and energy the actions and reactions of the created manifestation. They have come to be out of his energy, they rest on his energy, and after annihilation, they merge into him. Nothing is, therefore, different from him, but at the same time, the Lord is always different from them. Okay. When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute.
Read that again.
When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. The personality of Godhead and his transcendental name, fame, glory, etc. are all non-different from him. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord.
Read that again.
Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord.
Okay, hold it right there. So, how is it that one could engage the topic of economics wholly in the service of the Lord? Any ideas? It doesn't have to be complete, well thought out or anything like that, but let's just see some ideas. First of all, what is economics anyway? It's the law of supply and demand. It's all about scarce resources, isn't it? Is that correct? Say more about it. You know what's going on.
Yeah, it just has to do with the way like the world runs, and specifically the way you mentioned about scarcity and how there are limited supplies but unlimited desires.
Ah. You're sounding philosophical. Actually, it's a social science, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a little quantitative reasoning in there, but it's a social science. How so is it a social science?
It has to do with the way that like firms sell goods and all of these different, I forgot the word is, like sectors interact with like consumers, businesses, firms, the government, etc.
Okay, now let's talk about economics. The social system, economics. Does the world have it completely together right now as far as economics go? Do we have it together as a community as far as our economical systems go? What do you think? Is there room for improvement? Let me put it that way. I think that the way I put it was a little challenging. Is there room for improvement here?
Yes.
Using your learning in economics, what ideas would you generate to just starting with one community, a community of devotees dedicated to the principles of Bhagavad Gita, connecting everything with Krishna? How would you set up a think tank? What would you be talking about in ways to make this a better community using economic study, your knowledge and tools? Talk amongst yourselves. Here, make a little circle here. Just brainstorm it for a few seconds. We'll come back to you. Breakout room right over here. Go ahead. Figure it out and we'll get right back to you. Move in. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, to me, I was just going to quote how Manjula Kanta Mataji actually uses the thought of economics and accounts for Vedic Academy and now Bhagavad Seva. Like she would just tell that we're going to do Gita Champion. She will exactly calculate, you have to charge this much because this much will go for juice, this much will go for food, this much will go for our, other snack stuff. And then she'll say, okay, so each kid will probably contribute about $6 to the Madan Mohan pocket. And I am a science student. Well, I don't even know if I'll do that right. But I was just looking at her, how do you know that we are charged $10, this goes? So her thought process of financing, I think, that made me think that, anybody who's into accounting or economics, they're able to make sure that we don't spend a lot unnecessarily, spend enough, and make sure that temple gets some good.
Okay.
Lakshmi back.
Okay, very practical. Our breakout room is broken back in. Let's see what they have to say.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so one of the examples that we thought of was just some like struggle that we face commonly, like on our regular programs. For example, knowing the proper amount of prasadam to make. A lot of times we have extra, which leads to a surplus amount or shortages. So using like the law of supply and demand, creating the right amount of prasadam so we use our resources properly without ever wasting the resources Krishna has given us.
This is an excellent point that you came up with. In fact, we were just reading about it in Giriraj Maharaj's new book. And there was a situation there in Bombay where they were making too much prasadam, and Prabhupada was just saying that the main point is you should learn how to make just enough. Could you use your quantitative skills to figure out exactly how much to make, possibly, or get closer? Okay, good. What other economic problems might we have considering it a social science within our small community here that could be solved through the science of economics?
Maybe if we have a farm or something, we can cultivate our own produce and supply it to the devotee community at least, so that, people out there like these vendors, and then they're all making money out of not quality produce, whereas we can, eat healthy and at the same time support the local farming.
Okay. It's not so easy, is it?
Yeah, it's not easy.
I mean, when I grow tomatoes, I figure they cost about $20 each when I make them. Some of the plants don't make it. Half the produce is eaten by little critters and things like that. Vrajananda Prabhu just graduated from the GBC College. He's been thinking about these things quite extensively. Let's hear what you have for us.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we've definitely talked a lot about this in GBC College. One of the things was having more...
Do they have SAT?
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think we all took SAT back in the day, though. One of the things that we talked about a lot was having more devotee-owned businesses. And there's a lot of ideas, of course. More prasadam distribution opportunities without, going into too much detail, but there's a project that they're trying to replicate a prasadam distribution, like a mobile restaurant model that many different temples or devotees could basically replicate. It's like a franchise or something like that. So basically, like having opportunities for devotees to be able to serve more directly and also make money at the same time, and also fund different projects or different devotees who are doing a lot of seva, for example. One of the issues is a lot of devotees who want to serve full-time aren't able to do that because there might not be enough resources to fund them to do so. So that's one
Writing
issue.
all these things down. These are problems that you can solve.
Yeah, actually it's nice if the younger people can figure these things out.
Well, it's nice when you're taking your classes, then you can look and say like, okay, how could I use ISV as a laboratory? You have a perfect place here where you can come in and use your leadership for all the different sciences that you're learning, and you can explore here. Everyone will give you carte blanche to experiment and see how you can apply these things, right? Okay, you might even get credit at university, I think. Special credit. Were you done, Raj? Okay, 1 second. We got a couple just in front of you, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm more or less done, but I just think that a lot of issues in devotee economy can be solved through having devotee-run businesses in general and keeping the money in-house as much as possible. The Mormons do a really good job with this. They have a lot of businesses, and they employ a lot of their people, and there's multi-million-dollar companies that come from this, and it's able to really, really help them in a big way. So, yeah, that's it.
We'd like to welcome Rajananda Prabhu and Kumari Saki, who have just moved to the Bay Area to express their spiritual entrepreneurialism. They're actually fully dedicated just to spreading Krishna consciousness, and they're going to be connecting with the San Francisco project to help spread Krishna consciousness in the Bay Area. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Thank you all.
We have a couple more follow-ups here with this topic.
Prabhuji, I was thinking that we need education system like school here. That's a demand that we have, but we don't have enough devotee school here. Okay. Second thing is also housing. If we have a temple-owned housing or some properties that we could build around the temple, so that is something that would help devotees to attend.
If you want a lot of problems in your life, develop devotee housing. Just putting a footnote in there as we go forward. Okay.
One of the things I always think about is how when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, he inspired all the young youth who, just like yourself, just gave your life completely for the movement with no care about the future. And
so that's another approach, right?
So you can see how the movement expanded so rapidly when there was so much giving. So how do we facilitate that now, especially when...
Well, I give a testimonial. I mean, I've never worked. I have to admit, I've never really worked in my life. at a job. I never took a job interview. And I've never felt unstable. I'm just saying, of course, you know, there's always this balancing act going on. Like, how do I get stable? I mean, how do you know when you're actually stable? That's one thing. But the less you need or want, and the more that you're dedicated giving Krishna, then, you know, you don't feel unstable. Because if you want more, no matter how much you get, you still feel unstable. Because I'm only making $1 million a year. And these other guys, they're making like 10 million a year. I'm a total loser. And plus, you know, it's not enough because, you know, how am I going to maintain? You can incrementally increase your material needs, and social studies have shown. Do you know about these? The hierarchy of needs. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and there are actually studies that show once you get to a certain level of stability, you have enough money for your shelter and the basic needs in life, that more money doesn't actually help you. And so stability is relative, but it can become an endless endeavor in the material world. So from your point about devotees who had the fortune of being in kind of that window of opportunity in the 60s and 70s, where the mood was Tyakva Sudharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare. Just, and people were not necessarily for Krishna consciousness, but for anything. The mantra was drop out and try to tune in to something higher. At that time, it was, you know, peace and love. But how that would be manifest is another thing. Lucky thing that there was an opportunity to express that renunciation of the material world by going into Krishna consciousness. But I could testify that I never felt unstable even when I didn't have money. And I didn't for many years. We didn't, as brahmacharis, keep anything. At that time, if you needed something, you just asked the temple treasurer, can I have a toothbrush? And they would arrange it through a lot of red tape. And then in our Grahastha ashram, Nirakula and I, of course, she's put in great effort with her business. She's very entrepreneurial. I had a business for 10 years that didn't require me to stop doing other things in the meantime. But, you know, we struggled along, but never really struggled. We just, we've always felt stable. What do you think, Nirakula? Can you extrapolate on that? Want to give any details?
We've always been taken care of by Krishna. Sometimes, you know, we don't know how it will come about, and but Krishna has always provided more than I could have imagined. I mean, we're not mega wealthy or anything, but we're in one sense, but we're very wealthy in another sense.
Right. So there's this balancing point too. It's not like we didn't try, and we didn't try to put our ducks in a row financially. You know, we did our due diligence, but we kind of just kept doing our service, and then whatever would happen. So I think there's a balance point too, as far as stability goes, making sure that you do everything that you can do that's available to you without over-endeavoring. What's the verse in the Upadeshamrita about over-endeavoring? Let the record show that they're quoting from the Upadeshamrita. Achahara priyashascha. Which of the words is it about over-endeavor? Priyashas. Can you say more about it? Because you jumped into that very enthusiastically. Actually, exhibiting utsahan. Go ahead.
Sometimes we do things at the expense of our spiritual sadhana. Sometimes we, at the expense of our health, our personal relationships, family and things. So there should be endeavor, and we should be Krishna conscious while endeavoring for it. But we should also ensure we will be Krishna conscious during our endeavors only if we put, only if we have a strong hold of our sadhana. So
this is a good point. I mean, first of all, Bhagavatam says that if you are able to achieve everything that you want, Prabhu quoted it this morning, I think, that don't try so hard for things that are going to come pretty much automatically by karma. How's the verse start? Tasyaiva heto prayate takovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparayada talabhyate dukkha varanyata sukham sarvatra kalena abhiramasa. There's a way, kalena means by destiny. Because of our past momentum, there are certain things that are going to come to us, and no matter how hard you try economically to put everything in order, pretty much you're going to get what you get. Otherwise, everyone would be a billionaire, right? So remember that. That's a balancing point Narada gives us, and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, be balanced, yuktahara viharasya. But your point, don't over-endeavor for things that are very difficult to attain. So there's a kind of balance point. You take care of your economic position and all the other social things too. We can't also neglect our relationships for the sake of being a renunciate, especially if you're a grihastha. Maybe a sannyasi can get away with it and like not be socially integrated as much, but definitely grihasthas, we have to take care of the emotional needs of everybody in our family, right? Say yes. Yes. And simultaneously, we have to keep up our devotional practice, and it can't be at the expense of our stability or all the other kinds of duties that we have to do in our life. What do you think? Okay? Yes, Adrian, you were going to say something.
How many people here think Wall Street, how many people here have a bad sentiment about Wall Street people? Or
Have
just
what?
money in general? A bad sentiment. Bad sentiment. Like, how many people think Wall Street is bad?
How many
Nobody?
people here think Wall Street is bad? This is an experiment.
Wall Street people.
So you have to vote now.
Yeah. Hands up,
And you
Wall
can't
Street's
use
bad.
the little Zoom thing anymore because you're in the room now. You
So-
actually have to raise your hand. You can't push the button. Okay, how many here think that Wall Street is bad? Raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Don't be afraid. Raise your hand if you
shy, be
don't like
truthful.
Wall Street.
All right, that's
4, 5, 6. We've got 6 people that don't like it.
So I hate to use the term our forefathers, but a system has been created for us that allows you to extract wealth, fiat currency. And fiat currency, fiat means like by law, by dictation. They create more money out of thin air. Actually, they print it. And so
You know
Wall
about
Street
this? You're right.
and things like
You know that?
the stock market, commodity pools, hedge funds are set up to actually finance governments. Like, for example, Saudi Arabia has a sovereign fund that is used to finance projects, development projects in Saudi Arabia. And so the Bhakti community or the Krishna consciousness community could benefit from thinking like Wall Street. We could invest in things like stocks and ETFs, which, you know, produce 10 to 20% of growth year over year. There's also more highly volatile instruments like commodities and futures, things on like currencies, for example. And so it's actually pretty easy if you know what's the word I'm looking for? If you know that science, the finance system, and you just take time to learn some basic fundamentals, you can actually extract wealth from the market from almost nothing. And a lot of us who've been working for many years, have a 401k or something along those lines, have experienced this firsthand. So my suggestion is for the Bhakti community or the Krishna consciousness community is to kind of think like Wall Street gurus. because it gives us more time to practice devotion and to spread the Krishna consciousness. And it allows us to make more money, which will enable us to perpetuate that in the material world, right? The book printing is a costly endeavor, I'm sure. I'm sure it costs the agency money.
I know Malini's smiling because he's thinking book distribution futures. I think these are excellent points. There are ways that there are well-trained economists and entrepreneurs who go around the world and figure out how to develop microeconomies. You're aware of these things? Like in other countries, sometimes they empower groups of women in various countries to develop their own businesses, and they got these microeconomies going, and then there's a multiplier effect when you do these things. You know about the multiplier effect, right? So then, you know, it expands outwardly. And so this verse that we're reading from in the Bhagavatam, in which Narada Muni says, idam hi pumsam tapsasa shutasya va shvistasya suktasya chabuddhi dateo. All of our faculties and careers, everything can be utilized for the highest cause, which is serving Vishnu. There's a way in which in history, you know, philosophy and religion and economics and everything were married, and then they got a divorce at some point. And we came into this age of reason where it's like, okay, you guys are over here, we're over here, and then there's this big bloody fight. But actually the two of them go together. Prabhupada used to say that religion without philosophy is sentiment, and philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The two have to go together. Like one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, who was very poetical and brilliant scholars, once said, "They have ruined the moon." They have ruined the moon. What did he mean by that? The scientists said, "Oh, the moon is just a planet and this and that," but you know, it's just dirt and so forth. You objectify it to the point, and looking at it in such a way that it becomes meaningless. How many poems are there about the moon? How many ways in which does one feel the moon represents our, you know, love for one thing or another? That's as real as the objective observation of the moon. Actually, it's more real, because that's what we respond to in every aspect of our life. And so the point is, you can't divorce the two things. Otherwise, you basically don't have any fulfillment in life. So there's a way to use every science, every study, every endeavor in Krishna service. And we are active. Every one of us has a nature to engage. Govinda Charan Prabhu brought this up from the Bhagavad Gita, that we have a subhava. And so our nature has to be engaged. Otherwise, we're not just dead stones. We can't just renounce the world, become sannyasis, and walk off into the sunset. So everything, however, should be used in Krishna's service. And some of the ideas that you're bringing up, you know, just starting on a smaller level, prasadam, how to regulate it. Adrian Prabhu brought up all these really great ideas about, you know, developing an internal economic system. Rajananda Prabhu also mentioned it, that there are other groups that have thought long and hard about that. For instance, one of the ways I was thinking about it is that, what if there was a more clear transitional point for young people in our community, where there's more training, so there's an on-ramp into the world of there's studies plus Krishna consciousness, and also kind of an economic support. Like we have a network, so they don't have to go off and look for work somewhere else. There's a way within our own organization that we can do that. You're nodding your head. Please say more about it. There's utsahan. Wherever we see utsahan, we find auspiciousness.
I mean, if you work for a, bigger companies, like their goal is to make money for themselves. Whereas, if you work in a, say, devotee-run company, even though they are doing the same thing as to, science or math or whatever, computer science, but then, their goal is to serve Krishna, serve the movement. So the whole atmosphere is much different. So if there are such companies and businesses owned by devotees, and it's easy for the youth to be absorbed there, and they can still maintain their, Krishna consciousness.
Rajananda is he's giving approval. Sounds of satisfaction and a thumbs up. Okay, I'd like to just get final feedback from our representative sample of Vaishnavs who are making a transitional point. It's very interesting for me to watch this whole process and see what's going to happen, because, obviously you're all so important to us, and we kind of want to hear what you're thinking. What do you think about this transition and what the whole conversation today? Are any parts of this relevant, usable in your life? Just going in this direction in the discussion. You don't have to say anything. Don't think you have to say anything brilliant. Just reflect back.
Shivatsa, do you want to go first? Okay. Okay, I can go.
Just expound, be yourself, and say what's on your mind.
Okay, so I really enjoyed this purport and how relevant it was. So thank you for choosing this purport specifically. Overall, about the transition, I do think it's very important to use everything in Krishna's service. And like before, that was a phrase that I thought was very easily tossed around. Just tie it back to Krishna, use it in Krishna's service. But really thinking about it, our goal is to establish a personal relationship with Krishna and make him happy by using whatever we have in his service. So the same way that like parents are pleased when children use like their allowance to buy them a gift, or an art teacher is happy when their like first student paints them a painting. By us using the resources we have to offer something to Krishna, that makes him the most happy, because it's that same gift being given back to him.
Thank you very much. Nice. Any other thoughts? Okay. Shivatsa. He's got a mic. Give him one from the back row.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This purport reminded me a lot about Notpade Dhyadiratim Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam, about how if my activities are not ultimately leading me to be attracted to Krishna, it's ultimately going to be useless labor. And I was thinking about how, like, using everything in the service of Krishna, I've got to constantly be remembering Krishna in order to do that. Or else it's so easy to fall into this trap of thinking that I am going to enjoy the fruits of this labor, or I'm doing this for this certain material desire. And I was reflecting recently over the last couple of days, and I told only a couple friends about it, about how it's so easy to say that, like, I care about Krishna consciousness, or I'm trying my best to get prema, but in reality, I'm not actually putting my heart and soul into it and making it a personal thing. And I was thinking about how love is in the details, and how when someone does those small things for you, or is really able to like get into the details of things, you know that they actually really care. And I was thinking about how, as you say, like yogis are as sensitive as an eyeball, and how if I'm able to make my spiritual life super like meticulous and really get into the details and show Krishna that like I actually care about you, that I really want to do this, and that it's not like an external thing anymore. It's not something that's just there for like I guess like making a show. That I want to I want to get everything right this time. It really will go a very long way, and that doesn't only work for like my strictly like practices like japa. It also works for practices like studying for midterms and so on.
Thank you for giving your thought process. Very helpful. Okay, we'll just take two last reflections from anywhere in the room. Anybody would like to make about anything we said today? 1, 2. Okay.
Maharaj, as you're saying about economics, I was actually thinking about how we invest into devotees. And as we do that, the results will come eventually, the financial results. Of how I remember how you started Make Japa Great Again. It's such a intellectual thought process to start it. I mean, we don't have to understand to participate, but once we started participating, we can see the results for ourselves. We feel the inspiration to do more service. The quality of service increases, the quantity of service increases. And other examples, of course, we see how children are growing up to be wonderful devotees. So I was thinking more programs like that, where we are not thinking about the end result, immediate end result. Of course, we have a goal we want to get out of, but investing with a vision of long-term vision. So I was just thinking of more programs like that. So that would be
okay. Yeah, like we talk about return on attention. What are we investing our attention into? Where do we get the best return on that? Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, Radhakripa Prabhu for the close. Except for, when we get the chance, right after that, I want to hear from Kumari Saki and find out why she came here. I want to hear what's on your mind. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for picking this special topic. In the Bay Area, right now we see, the economy or the way that things are, the salaries are hitting the roof, the housing market. But I think there is a lot of, I was linking the greed. Greed is a bad deal. We think greed is bad. But if we repurpose the same greed to earn more, to give back more, I think then we can spiritualize everything to that sense. So I felt like sometime not utilizing your talent or service because we thought it's over-enduring. But if we over-endure, but for the bigger purpose, I think that greed is justified. So I really felt good after hearing today's lecture and purport. Thank you.
That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because we're on the biggest marathon for distributing sets of Bhagavatams that we've ever done. Our goal is to distribute at least 2,000 sets of Bhagavatams before we get to September 20th. And we also, this weekend, have a goal to have at least 300 devotees go on book distribution. So please be greedy towards these goals. And let's employ what Radhakripa Prabhu said. And we'll need to, everyone needs to do a tiny little bit. That's all. At least a tiny little bit to do your part for, number one, distributing actively some books. Possible? Okay, and number two is we need to sponsor and distribute at least 2,000 sets of Bhagavatams. Possible? Just say yes a little louder. Yes. Yeah, and you can clap too. Okay. We're fascinated, Kumari Saki. We heard a little bit from Braj earlier, and could you tell us, so the devotees get to know who you are and your presence here in the Bay Area? What are you thinking?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm just really appreciating how wonderfully you've been facilitating this very enlivening and productive discussion. So thank you, first of all. But yeah, I tend to think very systematically and practically. So I'm thinking about what Brajananda was saying and what you were saying and maybe what other devotee was saying, and kind of combining these thoughts to keep things in-house and to have devotee businesses, and then to think about the future of our youth and to somehow make a log. Like, there are so many talented and successful people in this room, I can only imagine. And so why not have some sort of log and system where, okay, this devotee is expert in real estate, this person is a doctor, this person is whatever, and have some sort of log, and then connect the people. Oh, I'm interested in learning about this. Who in my community, who is right here that I can learn from, that I can get to know this this business for myself and try to figure out if it really is for me. And then it kind of takes this transitional period, like you were mentioning, and it's not like you're being thrown out into the world. You're actually having a devotee who is trained and successful, guiding you and helping you and showing you the ropes. So I think it would be really interesting to have that in this community, and all communities really, to have that.
What will we call that project? What's the name of it? Go ahead.
We can brainstorm.
No, just give us one now. Any name of the project. You can help too, because you're in the thick of it. Project. Just a working title. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, it's called, Adrian gave, Project Banyan Tree.
Project Future Vairagya.
Future Vairagya. That could be the byline. So Project Banyan Tree has extrapolated a little more. Future, what you mean?
Well, I was thinking Yukta Vairagya, to use everything in Krishna's service and kind of just playing on words.
Okay, it's a project, somebody write it down. Project Banyan Tree. And then using everything and everything and every skill in Krishna's service. Just a working title. And the branding, we can see, the tree, networking, and it shows the different branches here: economics, computer science, for psychology, doctor. Anushri, I forgot to ask you, did you say? They don't what?
It's okay, you don't have to know yet.
She's in middle school. Okay. All right, good. Thank you for inaugurating our project. Haribo, 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 Haribo. Okay, and Malini, what else? Tell us what we've won.
Prabhuji, today is the day when we break free from lockdown and we are all going out on Sankirtan.
It's Independence Day.
Yes, Prabhu. And we have tables set up in different places, one in Cupertino, Fremont, then in East Bay as well. And we have other spots which will be posted on the Weekend Warriors. So we wanted devotees to distribute at least one book to be counted towards the Bhaktivinoda Thakur MSF offering on July 11th. So we wanted to have at least 300 devotees participate. And yesterday there was so much of enthusiasm. It was so nice to see devotees out distributing books along with kids. So request is today we will have a table outside. If you need books, at least one book you can carry with you and distribute it to anybody you like. And just report in before July 10th so we can count you in the marathon. That's it.
Haribo. I'd like to sponsor one set of Bhagavatams for the Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I was happy to be the first one because we'll have more opportunity to sponsor Bhagavatams coming up. Don't worry, you'll get your chance. We'll make an environment in which everyone can feel like you just pour that ghee into the fire and feel satisfied. Okay? And then now we have, yes?
Prabhu, Sukeshwari.
I would like to sponsor a set of Bhagavatam, Prabhu, on the most important occasion. Shivatsa got his license and he started driving now. So he can take people on Sankirtan.
Always wear your safety belt, please. I know it's controversial. It used to be, anyway. Okay. Yes?
Prabhu, I would like to sponsor one set of Bhagavatam because Gita Priya said that in future she will give she'll use her profession to give Lakshmi.
That must be advance payment from Gita Priya.
Good. Got momentum and an acknowledgement and a blessing. Okay, Bhakta Vatsal. Super good and getting better. Better than I deserve.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I will donate $1,000 for the distribution of the Bhagavatams.
Haribo! That's a lot. That's a huge asset. Wow, Vishaka Leela, good to see you. Please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I want to sponsor 5 sets of Bhagavatam and I will distribute it by September. I have some clients who I think will be interested. So whatever donation comes from them will also be added to that.
Sadhu, sadhu. Haribo. Well, that is really beautiful. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay. Now, uh-oh.
Just one set, Maharaj.
Yes. One set. Radhakripa Prabhu. One set of Bhagavatams. Haribo. Yes?
Prabhuji, I just wanted to announce that last year we had sets that we could ship it to all our friends, relatives, family members in India. And by the intense endeavor from the BBT marketing team and His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu, we have developed a process where now we are opening our shipping of Srimad Bhagavatam sets to India back again. So,
Haribo. It's called NAIFTA. You remember NAFTA? NAFTA? North American Free Trade Agreement. This is called North America-India Free Trade Agreement. NAIFTA. And Damodar Vamsidhari Prabhu is just so service-oriented and brilliant. And, we put him up to the task, and it was a onerous task. There was a lot of lawyers involved and negotiations between continents and everything like that. And he was stellar in the way he did it. So Damodar Prabhu is doing amazing service for ISV, even as he's living in India. Haribol.